Bai has no idea. The two end up chasing each other like madmen until they are completely exhausted and take a rest. During this time, Ong reveals that the donkey is extremely valuable to him because it belonged to his late brother. Bai suggests they rest for the night and continue the search later. Strangely, the jewel tells Bai that Ong as the human is the destined soul. Bai is overjoyed at this easy discovery and decides to get to know Ong better. Ong shares that he is on his way to take the imperial exam and that his brother has been trying to pass it for years. This year they agreed to take the exam together after meeting by the riverbank. However, Ong has been unable to find his brother. That night, while Ong is fast asleep, Bai senses something strange around him. He grabs his weapon and discovers Kohai, who has come to check on him as the leader instructed. Bai tells Kohai that Ong might be the human with the white elixir and accuses Kohai of trying to befriend him to gain favor. Once Bai becomes powerful, Kohai scolds him, explaining that he is only there to protect him on the leader's orders. Bai then asks Kohai to help him find the donkey as this will earn Ong's trust. The next day, Ong wakes up to find his donkey tied up next to him. Overjoyed, he thanks Bai, and the two continue their journey through the forest, getting to know each other better. They travel a great distance until they reach a strange city filled with fog. The city appears deserted, with no signs of life. They pass through easily and ask for a room to stay the night. The caretaker agrees, and Bai continues his search, until he finds the official who tells him to look into this lake, and as soon as he dives in, he finds the official has disappeared. A massive tongue grabs him by the head and drags him into the lake. Then, he emerges in a place resembling the academy, but looking very strange and disheveled. They walk around it more and feel frightened and terrified until they meet someone, and the first thing they ask about is a hotel. When he arrives to this place, they find an academy, and the person in charge tells them that he is here to prepare students for the imperial exam so that they can pass it easily. So he says to him, Bai told him, "We need a room for one day only, and we do not want to study with you." The person in charge agrees that they spend the night today, and at night, Bang wakes up after hearing strange sounds and searches for Bai. He finds a frog drops a piece of gold, and unlike anyone, he does not approach them. He continues searching for Bai until he finds the person in charge who tells him to look in this lake, and as soon as he looks at it, he finds that the person in charge has disappeared. A very huge tongue appears, and it grabs his head and pulls him into the lake. Then he appears to a place that looks like an academy, but its appearance is very strange and disgraced. As soon as he looks behind him, he finds a very huge frog, so he is terrified and runs out, but the frog pulls them with its tongue. When he looks behind him, he sees a massive frog, gets terrified, and starts running, but the frog grabs him with its tongue. At that moment, Bai appears and helps him. They try to get closer, but the frog refuses to let them go, so they both grab its tongue together and try to tie it. Eventually, the frog, with its incredible strength, lands some powerful blows on them. Suddenly, students appear in that place, but they look possessed or controlled by ghosts. They try to hide from them, but Wong gets terrified and starts screaming, running with Bai. Both of them are very scared and horrified by this place. They keep running until they reach the lake, but they can't cross it and find it frozen. Suddenly, the frog appears again, grabs Bai, and swallows him. Wang runs away in shock, but surprisingly, Bai emerges from the frog's mouth, who turns out to be the academy official, and the two of them are in on it together and are friends. From a distance, they hear a sound, and the official transforms again, warning Bai. But this time, Bai brings a pecker and manages to set the frog's tongue on fire. Its body, overwhelmed by the fire, throws Bai against the wall. After that, the frog faints. But the disaster is that Bai also loses consciousness and loses control of his human form, revealing his fox-like tail and ears. When Wang sees this, he panics, but then Cohen appears and strikes him, causing him to lose consciousness as well. Cohen takes Bai and the frog, putting them on a boat and scolding them. He tells Bai that what he did was wrong, and that he shouldn't let anyone else do his job. Bai responds that he is willing to do anything for the white elixir. However, Cohen tells him that they're still not sure if Wang is the person they're looking for or not. To confirm, they need to take him to John City, where they can discover the color of his soul. When Wang regains consciousness, he is shocked to find himself, "Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes." The movie begins with a small fox playing on the edge of a cliff. Accidentally, it slips and almost falls to its death, but manages to cling to the edge. Just as it is about to fall, a child appears at the last moment and rescues the fox, pulling it up. However, in an unfortunate turn of events, the child slips and ends up in the same position the fox was in. The fox, unable to save the child, watches as the child falls to his death. The fox descends and sits beside the child, overcome with grief, crying. In a kingdom far from humankind, there is a group of foxes that transform into human-like creatures. They gather at a magical cave surrounded by spells and incantations to protect it. One of them, named Bai, wishes to enter with the permission of Master Kohai, but he is rejected and mocked. However, Bai manages to sneak into the cave to attend the meeting, where the leader of the fox tribe, a white, nine-tailed fox, explains that human souls are nourished by the sun and the moon. This energy can transform foxes into immortals, allowing them to live forever. However, collecting human souls is only possible at specific times and is not an easy task. It is considered the most challenging and significant test for all foxes. The higher the quality of the soul or elixir, the stronger the fox becomes. The leader announces that a group of students will attempt to obtain the elixir from humans. One of the students had previously succeeded in acquiring a special type of elixir, transforming into a five-tailed fox. The more tails a fox has, the stronger it becomes. However, these successes were often achieved through deceit and cunning. The most important news is that the rare white elixir, which only appears once every 1,000 years, will soon emerge. If a fox can obtain this rare white soul by tricking a human into giving it up, the fox will become the strongest of all, with 9 tails, a dream for any fox in the tribe. During this time, the students step onto a stage to touch the sacred jewel, which will reveal their destined human. However, the leader senses that something is wrong and announces that the ceremony cannot proceed because someone is missing. It turns out that Bai is the missing participant. He reveals himself and asks the leader for permission to join. When Bai touches the jewel, it activates. But strangely, he is the only one whose hand is pulled into the jewel. He receives a symbol that will guide him to the human whose soul he must steal. However, the symbol is incomplete, and the leader warns him that his mission carries a high risk of death and might fail. Despite this, Bai insists on taking the test. The leader gives him a legendary weapon to kill monsters and demons, making his mission easier. Overjoyed, Bai sets off on his journey, but before leaving, he steals the leader's jewel to aid him in his search for the human. After Bai leaves the cave, Kohai expresses his concern to the leader, fearing for Bai's safety, as the mission to obtain the white elixir is extremely dangerous and has claimed the lives of many foxes. However, the leader assures Kohai that he trusts Bai to succeed and instructs him to watch over Bai and protect him. Excited about his newfound purpose, Bai runs through the forest, thrilled to no longer be an outcast among the foxes. He now has a good chance of obtaining the white soul and entering the human world. His first stop is a grilled chicken restaurant, where he eats large quantities of food as if he hasn't eaten in years. In the same village, a kind man named Ong appears, searching for his brother with his donkey. As Ong asks people for help, fate brings him to Bai. However, Bai is too busy eating chicken to respond and does not want to be disturbed. Frustrated, Ong walks away. At that moment, something strange happens. The jewel in Bai's pocket makes noises, indicating that his destined human is very close. Bai begins to wander through the village, searching for the human without realizing that he is a liar. The jewel eventually leads him to a gathering, but the gathering is anything but ordinary. A strange sorcerer creates drawings that appear so lifelike they seem to move. When stabbed with a knife, the drawings even bleed. Using the blood, the sorcerer heals a child in front of everyone. It turns out that these drawings contain trapped spirits. When Bai witnesses this, he becomes frightened and tries to run away. However, he stumbles and falls among the donkeys where he is caught and beaten. Eventually, he finds himself face to face with Ong, who rescues him and takes him away. As Ong runs after his donkey, something strange happens. The sorcerer notices Ong and casts a spell in the air, striking Ong's back without him noticing. Later, Ong's donkey wanders into the forest and disappears. When Ong finds Bai, he questions him about the donkey's whereabouts, but on the boat and starts talking to Bai, who is alone after his friends jumped into the sea. But Bai has a new plan and reveals to Wang the truth about being a fox spirit. He tells him that 500 years ago, Wang saved him from death when he was about to fall off a mountain. Of course, Wang is confused because he doesn't remember anything, as this happened in one of his past lives. Strangely, he doesn't fear him. Afterward, Bai begins to reveal his abilities and the incredible things he can do. They continue their journey on this strange boat, which is pushed by the frog, and on it is Kohai in the form of a donkey. They eventually reach Jian City, which is enormous, magnificent, and stunning. Wang can't believe his eyes at its beauty. The first place they visit is a house full of beautiful women. One of them approaches Wang and tells him someone is waiting for him. He follows her immediately, thinking it's his brother Duan, but he finds himself in a very special place, also filled with women. Bai is disguised as one of them and tells Bai that, in this place, There are ghosts who can see the soul inside Wang, its type and quality, and whether he is the white soul or not. Wang finds himself in a closed room with the beautiful ghost Leon. Thinking she is human, she keeps dancing and enchanting him with her beauty and graceful movements. Every time she gets closer to him, she finds him kind and respectful, refusing to touch her, until the moment she tries to touch him and see his soul. But strangely, the spell cast on him by the magician prevents her and throws her far away. The power of the spell makes her bounce from wall to wall until it throws her through the ceiling, leaving her injured and weak. Wang thinks he saved her from distress, so he speaks kindly to her, gives her a hand, and tells her he admires her so much that he wants to marry her. She also seems to admire him and his kind heart, leaving him to study for the exam while she plays music for him. Outside the room, Bai sits, astonished by the human who managed to resist such a beautiful fairy. When Wang falls asleep, Leon comes out and talks to Bai, telling him she couldn't uncover his soul. They return to their boat to rest. Bai reflects on how, if Wang's soul wasn't the one they were looking for, they could have been very close friends. At that moment, Kohai appears and tortures Leon with his power and magic for failing her mission. He grabs the flower containing her cursed soul and threatens her. The next day, Wang continues his search for Duan. So far, he hasn't found anything and is very sad because he will take the exam tomorrow without his brother, fearing he might fail. But Bai encourages him, telling him he studied well and will succeed. Bai also admits that he hasn't found his true soul yet and that he has an exam he might fail with no second chance. In the royal hall, students entering the test are inspected because many try to cheat, and those caught are punished. Wang and Bai receive their answer sheets, along with dozens of other students. Naturally, Wang is very nervous and scared. However, Bai notices something strange. Someone invisible passes through the door unnoticed. At dawn, the students begin their exams. The supervisor shows them the questions they must answer. Bai, of course, isn't interested at all and keeps eating, leaving the supervisor astonished. The exam is so challenging that some students lose their minds, begin seeing ghosts. By midnight, the students are still taking the test, and Bai is still eating. But he notices Leon in her true form checking on Wang without anyone noticing. She goes to extract Bai's soul from his body and tells him there is an evil ghost in the exam room planning to capture the souls of some students today, including Wang. Once he does, he will obtain the white elixir from inside him after killing him. She asks Bai, in return, to help her retrieve her lotus flower from Kohai. Then she leaves. Bai waits for the moment when Wang's soul leaves his body, and we find his soul standing among the students. Among them is Duan's soul, taking the test. It turns out he is the evil ghost. He transforms into his true form and chases Wang, but Bai defends him with his weapon. He tells him that he must now return to his body before it is too late. But Wang can't believe that Duran is dead, and when he returns to him, he finds that his appearance is ugly, so he gets scared and runs out. But Duran prevents them and makes a bull from the exam papers and tries to prevent him from returning to his body and locks them in a box of papers and words moving to attack Honor, but Bai tries to protect him. But unfortunately he is unable to because Duran's soul is very strong and pulls Wang's soul into its cycle of imprisonment. Bai forgets his mission and everything, and all that matters now is his friend. He jump after him to save him and find themselves in a room full of the souls of students Duan had imprisoned. They all attack him. Duan tries to extract his brother's soul, but at the last moment he remembers who he is and his true nature. He realizes he was never an evil spirit and that the one in front of him is his younger brother, so he stops what he's doing. At the same time, when Duan weakens, the jewel with Bai emits a powerful light that eliminates the evil spirits. It sends the students' souls back to their natural place. He breaks his own, returning Bai Wang's soul to its natural place in their body, with each of them remembering what happened in detail. After finishing the exam, Wang thanks Bai for saving him and his soul. However, Bai is sad because the jewel, which was considered a treasure by his group, was destroyed to save them. At that moment, Wang recalls his brother's words and asks Bai about the soul elixir, but Bai cannot respond. The surprise comes when Wang tells him that if the elixir is important to him, he can pray for him, but his only wish is for the girl whose story was extremely difficult. After being kidnapped by humans and sold into brothels, she couldn't bear it and threw herself into the river. However, she was so angry that she turned into a ghost, and her soul remained inside a flower that consumed human hearts and blood to stay beautiful. Wang learns all of this and understands that the one who truly loves her will be able to return her soul. Faced with this secret, Wang cannot stop Bai. He finds him wearing new clothes, bringing an engagement gift, and proposing to the girl, telling her he truly loves her and doesn't care if she's a ghost. Since she also admires him, she cannot agree and throws him into this dark fate. However, he tells her his words are as firm as a mountain and insists on marrying her, even if it means dying for her. In the face of his sincerity and love for her, she cannot hold back her tears, accepts the engagement gift, and all of this is witnessed by Bai and Kohai. In a moment of no return, she tells him she will resign, takes Wong, and escapes. Bai hits Kohai on the head, causing him to lose consciousness, and escapes as well, confronting them. However, she tells Bai that he wants to exploit the wedding ceremony to steal Wong's elixir. She attacks him without hesitation to defend her lover. Wong still defends Bai, as he is sure he is a friend, telling her he doesn't mind if Bai takes the elixir, but she tells him if he does, he will die. She continues her attack on Bai, who keeps saying he doesn't want to harm him and pleads with her to listen. However, she doesn't give him a chance until Wong begs her to stop and not kill him. She reluctantly listens to Wong and leaves Bai. Suddenly, a frog comes from behind and stabs her. Bai saves her, but he himself is shocked by the frog's actions, as he didn't want this to happen. At that moment, she takes Wong and escapes with her last breath until they reach the riverbank. She is severely injured and on the brink of death due to her grave injuries. She collapses in his arms, forgives him, thanks him for his love, and tells him she has never seen such kindness and sincerity except through him. She transforms into light, flies away with the wind, leaving him crying and heartbroken after losing the only one he loved. Bai stands beside them, watching sadly. Wong is deeply affected and accuses Bai of being the reason for all of this after considering him a friend. Now, he no longer desires anything and wishes for death, telling Bai he can take his elixir if he wants, as nothing matters to him anymore. However, Bai tells him he doesn't want anything from him because he is his dearest friend in the world. They continue to argue until Bai grabs his weapon, preparing to stab himself to prove he doesn't want anything from Wong. Suddenly, a portal opens, pulling Bai to the tribal leader, who tells him that 500 years ago when he saved him, he was deeply saddened, and his tears planted themselves in his soul. These tears became the elixir within him, and that's why Bai is the only one who can harvest it. This is his destiny. It seems his fate is always failure, and none of them can escape their destiny. It is difficult, but it is a test he must pass to take the elixir, so all his problems can be resolved, and he can become a true fox. At that time, Wong is walking in the forest when Bai returns to him, asking for forgiveness for everything he did to him. He admits he did it all for the elixir, but promises never to lie to him again, suggesting they each go their separate ways. However, Wong tells him he is truly his dearest friend, and after everything that happened, he no longer wants to continue living. He asks Bai to take the elixir as a gift and live forever. Wong takes out a knife, stabs himself, and hands the elixir to Bai. The disaster strikes when the real Bai arrives and discovers what happened. He realizes Bai wanted to steal the white elixir for himself. When Bai sees his friend dead, he collapses to the ground beside him, filled with rage. Kohai tells him the elixir inside Wong is just an ordinary black elixir and not worth all of this. But Bai won't let him leave easily. He grabs his weapon, chasing him to kill him, and they engage in a fierce battle. Bai uses his immense power, striking Kohai multiple times and destroying his face. However, Kohai transforms into a terrifying black fox with 7 tails, possessing immense power. Kohai grabs Bai, breaking his bones until Bai collapses to the ground beside Wong's elixir. Suddenly, Kohai uses his tail to bind Bai. In his final moments, Bai recalls every sweet moment he spent with his friend Wong. Looking at him lifeless, Bai decides to avenge him. He touches his elixir, which suddenly turns white, emitting a powerful light that reaches the heavens. A tremendous energy descends from the sky, entering Bai, who transforms into a giant 9-tailed fox with incredible power. Kohai cannot stand against him, taking hit after hit until he tries to flee. However, Bai moves with incredible speed, grabs him by the neck, and prepares to kill him. But he remembers Wong's words, wanting him to be a kind fox spirit who protects people. Bai decides to spare Kohai and lets him go. Kohai takes the opportunity to escape. A while later, Wong surprisingly wakes up, which is very strange. He gathers his belongings and leaves, confused about what happened and how he ended up there. He returns home, feeling like he has forgotten many things from his recent life. One day, while in the forest, he finds an injured little fox. He takes it in, cares for it, and decides to name it Bai. At that moment, he remembers what happened and realizes that after Bai gained the immense power every fox dreams of, he couldn't continue living without his friend. Bai wished to the heavens to give up all his power in exchange for his friend's life. His wish came true, and Bai transformed into a small fox. However, Wong would forget everything about him, which was the most painful thing for Bai. But fate brought them together again, and their friendship will continue anew. They will live together until the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe and activate the notification bell to receive our videos immediately.